living. Our topic for today's presentation is Know Thyself. Know Thyself. After his enlightenment, the Buddha took his message to the people. In one instance, he was asked if he was a god. The Buddha answered, "I am no god, I am awake." Now, without going into exactly what the Buddha meant by "I am awake," we can infer that the Buddha woke up from the illusions of the world. And what are these illusions? I have my own set of illusions of the world. They are probably similar to what the Buddha said, but I want to share what I think are some of the illusions that confront our lives. The first illusion is that I am better than my neighbor. Okay. What would make anyone say that? I'm better than my neighbor. Yeah, you probably have a nice car, you have a nice home, great job, takes lots of vacations, and you concluded you are better than your neighbor. What I'll tell you is that in your dreams, you are better than your neighbor. In reality, you could be dead the very moment you say that you are better than your neighbor. Yeah, you could be dead. Or you could lose everything you've got. Okay, meanwhile, the wheel of life is still turning. In other words, your neighbor is not stuck there. He's living in the same universe. His circumstances could change. So that statement should never come into our vocabulary at all. No one is better than his neighbor. In fact, you are not even better than the ant on which you are stepping on. Okay, number 2, I am chosen. Yeah, this is a very popular one too. I am chosen. I don't know what will, after living on this planet for 24 hours, for somebody to come up with the idea that he or she is chosen. I think when I looked at this idea, actually it was one of the problems I confronted during my spiritual quest. Yeah, the idea that some people are chosen at the expense of other cultures. It just didn't make sense to me. Why would somebody come with that idea? I think the idea is mostly to feel superior to your fellow human beings or to your fellow creatures and take advantage of them. Because look at it. When, let's say, when the hurricane comes, are the chosen ones secluded? Look at it. Yeah? They are also running for cover like the rest of us who are not chosen. But the truth is that we are all chosen as far as the universe goes. You are chosen, I am chosen as far as the universe goes. But somebody can be can be chosen by their gods. In that case, I have no problem. Yeah, if you are chosen by your God, by your cultural God, no problem. I am also chosen by my cultural God. Yeah. So anyway you look at it, we are all chosen. But of course, if you are worshiping a foreign God who has a chosen people, my question is, what are you doing there? You prefer to be a second-class citizen? go to your gods and be first-class citizen and not to worship foreign gods. Number 3, I have the truth. I have the truth. Yeah, this is another illusion. Of course, gives you, you have the truth. This can come from science. Science actually doesn't claim to have the truth. Just speculations, propositions. But somebody can be so engrossed in science, they can take an idea and say, yeah, this is the truth. In this transient world, science doesn't claim to have the truth. It investigates. But the truth mostly comes from the religious side of our lives. And where does this truth come from? Mostly in books. Socrates really laughed at this. A human being with all the senses picks up a book and says, this book has the truth, excuse me, and patterns his or her life according to the book. What a waste of an incarnation. The idea of truth, if you really look at it, we all have our truths, so your truth cannot be the truth. So how do I count the number of truths we have in the world? Okay, supposing we are all checking our sacred texts, like you have your Quran, the truth, I have my Upanishads, the truth, he has the Bhagavad Gita, the other person has the Tao teaching, the other person has the Dhammapada. So which one are you going to say? Okay, each of us will be saying my truth is the real truth. Who decides? If we really want to solve our problems, I think the best thing we can do is to continue the conversation, because when you say that you have the truth and you quote a text, immediately you stop the conversation and no person gains anything. Essentially, awakened living is about expanding our awareness and living from that awareness. Okay? But before we go into the details of expanding our awareness, I want to take you to ancient Egypt. Specifically, I want us to go to the Luxor temple. There are 2 temples in the Luxor temple, the outer temple and the inner temple. I want us to first go to the outer temple. This is in your imagination, of course. When you enter the outer temple, you are going to see the neophytes. They are all seated and they are waiting to prove themselves so that they can be initiated or admitted into the inner temple. I want you to look up towards the east. When you look up, you are going to find the quote or the inscription, "The body is the house of God." The body is the house of God. I want you to take a deep breath and meditate on that inscription, because it is the beginning of wisdom. Okay? Okay, now, I want us to go now to the inner temple. So as you go into the inner temple, you are going to see the initiates this time. The initiates, they are there, they have been admitted, they are now ready to be initiated. You'll see the initiates, but I want you to look up towards the east again, and this time, when you do that, you are going to see another inscription. And this one, it says, "Man, know thyself, and you are going to know the gods." Man, know thyself, and you are going to know the gods. Now take a deep breath and meditate on the inscription again, because this is the gateway to the mysteries of the universe. Because as above, so below. Now, follow me to ancient Greece. Specifically, we are going to the temple of Apollo at Delphi. And look up at the gate. When you do that, you'll find the inscription, "Nothing in excess and know thyself." If the ancients never contributed anything, but simply handed down this doctrine to us, they would have given us everything we needed to know. Self-knowledge is the portal to awakened living. Now, the first question is, what is this self that we are required to know? Some have said that the self is consciousness, and others have said that it is the soul. Still, in the Upanishads, a story talks about how the ungodly thought the self was the physical body. So they went on to wear fine clothes, put perfumes and garlands, anything to make your body feel good. And they are doing that with the belief that if they did that, they would be masters of life. Obviously, our physical body is not the self because it dies. Yeah, but without going into the metaphysics of the self, the Upanishads teach us that the self is beyond words, but dwells within the hearts of all. I want to read. We are reading from the Upanishads as translated by Eknath Eswaran. Okay, this is what the Chandogya Upanishad has to say about the self. The self, who can be realized by the pure in heart, who is life, light, truth, space, who gives rise to all works, all desires, all orders, all tastes, who is beyond words, who is joy abiding. This is the self dwelling in my heart. Smaller than a grain of rice, smaller than a grain of barley, smaller than a mustard seed, smaller than a grain of millet, smaller even than the kernel of a grain of millet, is the self. This is the self dwelling in my heart, greater than the earth, greater than the sky, greater than all the worlds. Greater than the earth, greater than the sky, and greater than all the worlds. Is it not an irony that we embody the greatest in the universe, yet many of us are hopeless, helpless, sickly, and poor? Yeah. The second and more important question, however, is how can we know this self, if it is the gateway to solve our problems? How can we know the self? The ancient mystery schools in Egypt and Greece never told the outsider what to do in order to know the self. And modern mystery schools continued the tradition. In other words, You won't know by being outside the mystery school how you are going to go about knowing the self. You have to become a member of the organization. Okay. But once again, the Upanishads comes to our rescue. Okay, and the Upanishads teaches us that the self can be known through dedication. Now I want to read from the Upanishads again. The self can be known through dedication, and this is this also from this is from another Upanishad. It's first that as far. Well, let's call it the S Upanishads. Looks like I cannot pronounce. It's very long. Let's call it the S Upanishads. Okay, it tells us that the self can be known through dedication. And this is what it has to say. Dedicate yourself to the Lord of life, who is the cause of the cosmos. He will remove the cause of all your suffering and free you from the bondage of karma. Okay, this is from the S Upanishad, as translated by Eknath Eswaran. Yeah, okay, this sounds very easy. Just dedicate your life to the self and everything will be fine. But how many people would really dedicate their lives to the self after reading the Upanishads as I did? Would you say 1, 2, 3, or 10 in 1,000? We don't know. But the most important question is, how do we go about it? Yeah, we are told to dedicate our lives to the self, but how do we really go about that? Okay. This is where Joseph Campbell comes to our rescue. Joseph Campbell talked about the sanctum in one of his presentations on the power of meat, in the series, The Power of Meat. Okay, so he talked about the importance of having, actually he called it a sacred place. Yeah, he talked about the importance of having a sanctum. Yeah, in this series, now before we go into that, I'm going to help you to set up your sanctum, dedicate it, and use it to change your life. So, if your life is important to you, I encourage you to stay with me. This series is going to continue. So you stay with me. Thank you. So the purpose of awakened living is to help us to live well in this world. Awakened living is sponsored by Unism. You are loved without conditions, and you are blessed without requirements. Thank you for listening, and may you experience cosmic peace in the name of love, the earth, and the universe. Join me next time for another episode of Awakened Living. Thank you.